They told you to be nice, to smile, to be accommodating, to never make waves. And you believed that if you gave enough, cared enough, loved enough, eventually you would be chosen. But what if I told you that niceness has never been the reason men choose women? In fact, it's often the reason they don't. Because being nice is safe, predictable. And while men might respect that, they rarely feel moved by it. See, men are not drawn to women who make them feel comfortable. They are drawn to women who make them feel alive. Women who ignite something deep, mystery, awe, and yes, even fear. The kind of woman who can love softly and still hold her power. That is the woman who awakens the masculine. That is the woman who is chosen. This isn't about manipulation or pretending to be someone you're not. It's about reconnecting to a forgotten truth. That your dark feminine energy, the part of you that feels deeply, desires passionately, and refuses to be tamed, is not something to hide. It's your birthright. So in this conversation, I want to take you on a journey. A journey back to your center, the part of you that remembers what it feels like to be magnetic, mysterious, and powerful in your softness. Because once you unlock that energy, you'll stop chasing validation from men who can't see your worth. And instead, you'll start attracting those who are ready to rise to meet it. Before we dive in, make sure you subscribe and stay until the very end, because the truth I'm about to share will shift how you see yourself, how you show up in love, and how you hold your feminine power forever. Now, let's begin. 1. The trap of the nice girl. We've been conditioned to believe that niceness equals goodness, that being the agreeable, self-sacrificing woman will somehow guarantee us love, respect, and security. But niceness, when it comes from fear instead of power, isn't goodness. It's self-abandonment in disguise. Think about it. How many times have you silenced your truth to avoid conflict? Smiled when you wanted to speak up? Said, "It's fine," when it wasn't? That's not grace. That's suppression. And suppression doesn't create attraction. It breeds resentment, both in you and in the man who senses you're holding something back. Men aren't drawn to the woman who disappears into their lives. They're drawn to the woman who exists fully in her own. The woman who isn't afraid to be seen, in her joy, her opinion, her emotion, and her silence. The woman who knows her worth doesn't depend on anyone's approval. In psychology, this is tied to the concept of emotional boundaries. When you're overly nice, you dissolve those boundaries to maintain connection. You give more than you have. You try to earn love instead of being it. But what this actually communicates is that you don't trust yourself enough to be chosen for who you are. And here's the paradox. Men respect niceness, but they're captivated by authenticity. Niceness is predictable. Authenticity is alive. It carries emotional texture, light and shadow intertwined. The nice girl tries to please. The feminine woman expresses. One is controlled, the other is in flow. Archetypically, this is the difference between the maiden and the queen. The maiden seeks validation. The queen radiates self-certainty. She doesn't perform softness, she embodies it, because her softness is anchored in self-trust, not fear. So ask yourself this: have I mistaken being nice for being valuable? Have I been trying to earn love by proving I'm easy to love? Instead of realizing that love, real love, is drawn to wholeness, not convenience. Because once you stop performing and start being, your entire presence changes. You stop chasing connection and start commanding it. You stop being the good girl and start being the whole woman. And that woman? She doesn't beg to be chosen. She attracts naturally because she has already chosen herself. 2. The magnetic power of the shadow. Let's talk about the part of you you've been told to hide. Your anger, your sensuality, your assertiveness, your desire for control. You were told those traits were too much, unfeminine, dangerous. But here's the truth. Those parts are not flaws. They are the very source of your magnetism. Carl Jung called it the shadow self. The aspects of our psyche that we repress because they don't fit the image we want the world to see. For many women, the shadow holds everything that contradicts the nice girl archetype. Power, sexual confidence, independence, intensity, and truth. When you reject those parts, you become emotionally flat. You start living in half-light, showing only what's acceptable. But men, and more importantly, life, respond to wholeness. They crave depth. They sense when a woman has met her own darkness and made peace with it. This is what the dark feminine represents. Not evil or cruelty, but radical wholeness. It's Lilith who refused to lie beneath Adam. It's the queen who can hold eye contact without needing to smile. It's the woman who can say no without apology and yes without shame. When a man meets a woman in her dark feminine, he feels her depth immediately. It's not something she says, it's something she is. Her energy speaks, I know who I am. I don't need to be chosen, but if you're brave enough, you can meet me here. That's the energy that disarms men, not by manipulation, but by truth. Your dark feminine energy is your capacity to feel fully, rage, passion, pleasure, grief, without losing your center. It's emotional alchemy. It's what transforms pain into power, desire into purpose. But many women fear this energy because it's unpredictable. It doesn't fit into boxes. It doesn't ask for permission. And that's exactly why it's magnetic. It's not about being cold or dominant. It's about being so rooted in yourself that your emotions no longer control you. You channel them. Think of Cleopatra. Intelligent, sensual, commanding, deeply emotional. She wasn't loved because she was agreeable. She was loved because she embodied the full spectrum of womanhood, intellect, mystery, and depth. She wasn't nice, she was unforgettable. So the question becomes, which parts of yourself have you buried to be loved? Which emotions have you labeled as too much? What would happen if you stopped trying to be liked and started being known? Because when you reintegrate your shadow, you stop leaking power. You stop overgiving and over-explaining. You become centered, grounded, and undeniably magnetic. The dark feminine doesn't chase or perform. She attracts through presence. And that presence, that mysterious, quiet confidence, that's what men never forget. The reason men don't choose nice women isn't that kindness lacks value. It's that niceness, when it's used as armor, hides your authenticity. Men, conscious men, crave depth. They crave the woman who's met her own edges, who can hold passion and pain without collapsing, who can love deeply without losing herself. When you begin to understand this, you no longer resent men for overlooking you. You begin to realize that every time you dimmed your power to be loved, you were only teaching them how little of you to see. The journey back to your feminine essence isn't about becoming less nice. It's about becoming more true, more embodied, more complete. Because the woman who is both soft and strong, both light and shadow, both loving and unapologetic, she is not the one who waits to be chosen. She is the one who chooses. 3. The emotional alchemy of the feminine. You've probably heard the phrase, men can't handle emotions. But the truth is, it's not emotions they can't handle. It's emotional chaos. And there's a difference. Chaos comes from repression. from feelings that were never given space to breathe, that come out sideways in neediness, control, or withdrawal. The feminine was never meant to suppress her emotions. She was meant to transmute them. That's the essence of emotional alchemy, turning the raw, unfiltered energy of your feelings into wisdom, boundaries, and power. When a woman learns how to feel deeply without becoming consumed, she becomes unshakable. She no longer uses her emotions to manipulate or to seek rescue. She uses them to communicate truth. That's the kind of emotional maturity that awakens respect, not pity. Most women were never taught how to do this. We were told emotions make us weak, dramatic, or too much. So we tried to become logical, independent, self-sufficient, and in doing so, we lost the ability to receive. But feminine power has never been about control. It's about surrender, not to a man, but to your own emotional intelligence. Think of the archetype of the priestess. She feels everything but is mastered by nothing. She knows that every emotion carries a message. Anger tells her a boundary was crossed. Sadness invites her to release. Desire points her toward life. She listens. She doesn't fight her emotions. She converses with them. That is what makes her magnetic. Because while others run from discomfort, she stands in it, graceful, grounded, alive. Men feel that. They may not understand it, but they're drawn to it because it radiates self-possession. She doesn't need to be calmed. She is calm in her storm. Ask yourself, when I feel, do I allow myself to really feel? Or do I judge my emotions as inconvenient? When you begin honoring your feelings instead of resisting them, something miraculous happens. You stop being reactive and start being radiant. Radiance is the feminine's greatest currency. It's not beauty in the superficial sense. It's energy. It's the light that shines from within when a woman is emotionally congruent, when her heart, body, and words align. That light is irresistible. And here's the secret. Men don't fall in love with perfection. They fall in love with truth. They fall in love with the woman who can cry without apology, laugh without permission, and speak without performing. The woman who's emotionally honest, not to manipulate, but to connect. Emotional alchemy doesn't mean you never feel pain again. It means pain no longer owns you. It means you can look at your heartbreak, your disappointment, even your rage, and say, "Thank you for teaching me where I forgot my worth." That is power. That is womanhood matured. 4. The power of mystery and emotional detachment. We live in a time where everything is shared, explained, and labeled. Every thought, every move, every emotion, out in the open. But mystery is oxygen to masculine desire. It's what keeps a man intrigued, wondering, reaching. Not because you're playing games, but because you don't hand over your essence for free. When I say mystery, I don't mean manipulation. I mean energetic restraint, the art of allowing someone to discover you slowly. It's knowing that you are not obligated to reveal every thought or emotion just to feel connected. Nice women often confuse availability with intimacy. They think that being open means being completely accessible, emotionally, physically, digitally. But true intimacy requires distance. The feminine becomes magnetic when she creates space, not as punishment, but as self-respect. Emotional detachment, in its healthy form, is not coldness. It's clarity. It's knowing that your value doesn't rise or fall based on a man's attention. It's being able to observe without reacting, to stay grounded in your energy while he figures out his own. This is where the queen archetype reappears. She is not chasing. She is choosing. She doesn't explain her worth because her presence is explanation enough. She doesn't panic when someone withdraws because she's not performing for validation. She's witnessing what's real. Men feel this energy instantly. When a woman is self-contained, when her peace isn't dependent on his approval. She becomes rare, and rarity is irresistible. In psychological terms, this connects to attachment awareness. The secure feminine energy doesn't cling or chase. She allows connection to unfold. She's not afraid of loss because she knows that what's meant for her cannot be scared away. And what isn't meant for her, no amount of chasing can save. When you cultivate mystery, you reintroduce polarity into the relationship. Polarity is the dance between the masculine and feminine, presence and flow, structure and surrender, pursuit and invitation. Without mystery, there is no dance, only monotony. Ask yourself this: do I give away too much of myself too soon? My time, my emotions, my plans, my heart, before someone has truly earned it? Remember, withholding isn't cruelty. It's discernment. It's understanding that your energy is sacred, that access to your emotional world is a privilege, that your mystery isn't a mask. It's the part of you that keeps love alive. In every powerful woman, there is an element of the unknown, a quiet something you can't quite name, and that's what makes her unforgettable. When you master detachment, you stop being addicted to outcome and start embodying presence. And presence is the essence of feminine magnetism. Yav, soft power and the art of receptivity. There's a misconception that power must be loud, that it must dominate, demand, and take up space. But the feminine's true power has always been subtle. The power of invitation, not insistence. Soft power is what happens when you know you could force, but choose not to. When you could chase, but choose to wait. When you could explain, but choose silence. It's the power that bends reality through grace instead of aggression. Receptivity isn't passivity. It's mastery. It's understanding that feminine influence is circular, not linear. It doesn't push, it pulls. It doesn't fight for attention. It commands it through energy. This is where most nice women misunderstand their strength. They believe giving endlessly will make them worthy. But giving without receiving is depletion, not devotion. It's giving from fear of loss, not abundance of love. Receptivity means you allow compliments, care, effort, gifts, admiration. You let yourself be seen and served. Many women struggle with this because they associate receiving with guilt or weakness. But in truth, receiving is a form of trust. Trust in your own worthiness and in the masculine's desire to provide. The lover archetype embodies this perfectly. She doesn't beg for attention. She opens herself to it. She knows that her energy is the garden, and what grows in it reflects how well she nourishes herself. Men are drawn to this energy because it gives them space to step into their natural polarity, to act, to give, to pursue. A woman rooted in soft power invites that response without asking for it. She doesn't need to prove she's independent or capable. She simply allows things to come to her while staying centered in her value. Soft power also means knowing when to lean back. When you sense imbalance, too much giving, too much explaining, too much proving. It's a sign you've left your throne. Return to yourself. Reconnect to the truth that your presence alone is enough. Ask yourself, where have I been over-functioning in my relationships? Where have I mistaken control for care? The feminine magnetism thrives in surrender, not strategy. Because when you surrender, not to him, but to life, you enter a rhythm that naturally brings what's aligned to you. The masculine feels that, and it awakens his instinct to meet you there. The women who understand this never chase love. They allow it. They know that forcing love cheapens it, but waiting in self-trust, that multiplies it. When you combine emotional alchemy, mystery, and soft power, you begin to transform how the world responds to you. You stop trying to prove your worth and start embodying it. You become the woman whose silence speaks louder than words, whose stillness commands attention, whose presence feels like gravity. And here's what's beautiful. None of this requires you to change who you are. It's not about pretending to be mysterious or acting detached or manipulating energy. It's about remembering who you were before you were told that being too much, too emotional, too honest made you unlovable. You were never too much. You were only untamed. And it's that untamed part, the part you've buried under niceness and approval seeking, that holds your true power. 6. Embodiment, becoming the energy you desire. You can read every book on feminine energy, you can watch every video, memorize every quote. But until you embody it, until it lives in your posture, your tone, your breath, your presence, it remains theory. Embodiment is where knowledge turns into power. To embody your feminine energy is to move from performance to presence. It's not about acting confident, it's about feeling safe within your own skin. Because true confidence isn't the absence of insecurity. It's the decision to stop abandoning yourself every time fear arises. This is the part of the journey where you stop looking for evidence outside of you and start trusting the quiet authority within you. It's a shift that can't be faked. When you embody worthiness, people feel it before you speak. Your energy communicates, I belong. I am enough. Every woman has experienced moments of embodiment. That one day you walked into a room and heads turned, not because of how you looked, but because of how you felt. You were in your body, not your mind. You weren't trying, you were simply being. That's the magnetic field of a woman in her essence. The mind is masculine. It plans, analyzes, directs. The body is feminine. It feels, receives, expresses. When you're overthinking, you disconnect from your body and your energy becomes sharp, restless, ungrounded. But when you return to your senses, to your breath, your hips, your heartbeat, you return to your power. Think of the goddess archetype. She doesn't explain her energy. She emanates it. Whether she's dancing, speaking, or simply sitting, there's a quiet allure about her. She's connected to her body, her pleasure, her stillness. She doesn't seek attention. She attracts it through alignment. To embody means to make your beliefs visible. If you believe you are worthy, how would you walk? How would you speak? How would you treat yourself in the smallest moments? Embodiment asks for practice, not perfection. It begins in the mundane. How you breathe when you're anxious, how you respond to disappointment, how you speak your needs. The woman who knows her worth doesn't rush, because she understands time bends around energy. She moves with intention, because she knows she doesn't need to hurry to be chosen. Ask yourself, how often do I live in my head instead of my body? Do I let myself feel what I desire, or do I numb it with distraction? When you reconnect to your body, you awaken your feminine frequency. And that frequency speaks louder than words ever could. Men sense it. The world senses it. Because a woman in her body is a woman in her power. She's no longer trying to control attraction. She's simply radiating it. And that radiance, that lived, breathed, embodied power, is the reason why some women never have to chase. They are the invitation. Becoming the woman who is chosen by life. At the heart of all of this, the message is simple. Stop being the nice woman who tries to be loved by everyone, and start being the whole woman who is unforgettable to the right one. Because when you embrace your darkness, when you alchemize your emotions, when you honor your mystery and stand in your sovereignty, you become magnetic, not just to men, but to life itself. Life begins to choose you. Opportunities, friendships, and love align effortlessly because you're no longer chasing, you're attracting from truth. So choose yourself. every single day. Choose your power, your softness, your wholeness. Remember that the dark feminine within you is not something to fear. It's your brilliance, your wildness, your wisdom. And if this message resonated with you, subscribe for more conversations that awaken your feminine power and help you return home to yourself. Until next time, stay radiant, stay rooted, and remember, you were never meant to be nice. You were meant to be real.